Welcome to the CTSO Advisor Toolbox. In Objective 7, we will analyze best practices for developing a strong officer leadership team, and in Objective 8, we'll identify the components of successful meetings. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So effective leaders. So I want you to think to yourself, what are characteristics that you would like your CTSO leaders to have? And how would those qualities help your organization at your school? Some that come to mind might be assertive, organized, communicative. These are all different aspects of effective leaders, but you need to figure out the ones that your community needs the most. Some best practices. Make sure that you have job descriptions so that every student knows exactly what they are supposed to do and they can be held accountable to that. Be consistent and regular about your meeting times. Determine how you'll communicate with your officers. Maybe use Remind 101 or email. You need to make sure that it's something safe for both the students and the teachers. Determine group norms and team values so that your team can function properly. Your question might be, how do I get leaders? Well, for the first year of a new CTSO program, advisors can choose their officer team. Make sure that when you choose your officer team, if it's your first year, you appoint positive and solid leaders. Make it an honor to do that. If you are in the second or third year and beyond, you must have an election. They're best held in the spring by current members to determine who the future of the leadership will be. They should be done in the springtime also so that if the officers wish, they can meet over the summer to do some planning. So which is best for students? Advisor-led and member-doing within the organization. Student-led or advisor-doing within the organization. Or lastly, student-led and advisor-advising within the organization. I have 3 ones here. And clearly my animation didn't work as well as I wanted it to. So I want you to take a moment and think to yourself, when and which is best for students? There is a time and a place for all of these 3 things, but the most beneficial one that you can probably see is going to be this one. Student-led, Student-led and advisor advising, right? So this ensures that your students are doing the leading and the advisor is doing what the role is, advising. So that the students are really taking the initiative among themselves to be these qualities. Empowered. Make sure that the chapter president is empowered. Empowering chapter officers. Making sure you provide opportunity for team building. Participating in officer training and setting expectations. Now, it's kind of difficult. As an advisor and as a teacher, your training has been to help foster students. But there's a song that you should think of whenever you have that urge to do that, and I'm going to play it for you right now. This is, of course, the best song to remind you what you need to do when you have students that are in their CTSOs. The purpose of the song is to remind you that at some point you have to let it go, and you need to make sure that you give students not only the opportunity to succeed, but also the opportunities to fail. Alright, let's speed it up to one of the more interesting parts. Do you understand, right? So we need to make sure that we're letting it go for our students so that they have the best experience as student leaders. Now, of course, this isn't a bad thing. You can set expectations for your officers, but making sure that you let it go when it comes to being overcritical about what they do or controlling every move is important, right? Because this is a student-led organization. Thinking of CTSO meeting times. So you're never going to have an ideal time, so get over it. And how will you communicate meeting information to students who missed it? You probably will never have 100% participation at your meetings. So you have 2 options. You can have your meetings during class, or you can have them outside of class, at lunch, after school, in the evening. Just make sure that it's within the boundaries of your school and their guidelines in terms of meeting with students. What are the pros and cons of each? Go ahead and think to yourself. One of the pros of it being during class is that everyone is in attendance. However, if you have multiple sections that are all involved in, let's say, FCCLA, you have 3 different culinary classes. How are you going to do that during class? You would have to hold a meeting during each class, and your officers would have to lead that. So your officers would have to miss 3 class periods. Well, maybe it would be best to have it at lunch or after school. Sometimes schools have a flex period where students can go and do academic related things, and that would be a great time too. Check with your school district to see what your guidelines are for that. Make sure that you can try to put your meetings and events on a school calendar or communicate them in a way that ensures that everyone who is involved in your CTSO knows when those times are. Tips and tricks for productive meetings. Determine a room setting. Keep it consistent. Make sure that you understand how the room tone might affect your meeting. For example, classroom style seating gives students the ability to write on a table, but sitting in a circle may help everyone feel engaged and involved. Delegate and make officers responsible for the success of the meeting. Make sure that you aren't wasting the time with the students that are there. Review your roles and responsibilities and ensure that everyone understands what their role is at the meeting. Take minutes. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you where on the WestMech employee portal you can find resources on how to take minutes. Assign time limits. Identify and review ground rules at every meeting, and track assignments, and stress accountability. So ensure that your meetings are being productive by ensuring that you have the accountability that you want. Let's go ahead and look at where you can find a meeting template for taking minutes. So you're going to want to go ahead and log into your WestMech employee portal account. And then the best place to look is you hover over CI and go to CTSO. This will give you a ton of resources. We'll look at field trips later, timeline and advisor guidelines, but you're going to want to go to chapter documents. Chapter documents is going to load a page. It's going to load actually a Google Drive, and you can see a CTSO minutes template document right here, right? So that's an awesome resource for you to access right on the WestMech employee portal that you can use for all of your necessary resources. Now that we've reviewed a place where you can get a minutes template, you need to make sure that you can have a successful and coherent team that communicates well with each other. Pair new members with current members and officers. Someone that they care about, that they can attend the meetings and have them, excite them and get them involved. Give a sharehold in an organization to a new member. What ways can that new member contribute to the organization? Maybe they're really good at graphic design, and so you can employ them and have them help you with marketing for different events at your school. Find those strengths and hone in on them and make those members feel like they're involved in more than just attending the meetings. So my last question for you is closure. So how will you train your officers for leadership positions? Think to yourself. Write it down, scribble it, or keep it in the back of your mind. And join us next week in Objective 9, where we will identify the importance and value of the Program of Work, or POW. Thanks. I'll see you next video.